Hello, this is Module 1 about STEAM formative assessment. In this module, we will talk about the different types of formative assessment and the ways you can best create formative assessment aligned to your STEAM units. So first, we're going to begin with a discussion on what formative assessment should look like in your STEAM assessment. So first, it should be embedded. What this means is that it's connected to both the learning objectives and embedded throughout the learning tasks. This means that it shouldn't be an afterthought, but rather intentionally a part of the curriculum. So what could this look like? Often we speak of what we call check-ins, and these are times when you check in with students to figure out their progress in the STEAM unit. This could be a short quiz. This could be a small group discussion. It could be a reflection. Often we like to use technology to check in with students, such as Socrative, Google Forms, or Kahoot quizzes. The reason we really like technology to use for check-ins and formative assessment is that it's immediate feedback, which really helps to see where our students are right at that moment. The last thing that the embedded feedback could be specific rubrics tied to the unit. So this could be skills that we're really looking for students to have and pieces that they can work on throughout the units that build to their final projects or final presentations. So why is embedded formative assessment so important? This is so that you know where your students are during the learning process. It's really important because STEAM units tend to be a bit longer than other units that you check in with the students and see where they are so that you can make adjustments to your teaching if needed. It should drive and adjust your teaching practice, right? So if students are struggling with a particular skill, you can stop and reteach that section. And because with STEAM, as we've talked about over and over again, there are multiple pathways, right? Students can take different questions to investigate. It's important to ensure that the content that you are teaching is being taught. Another key piece to formative assessment is that it's authentic to solving the problem. So this ensures that both the process skills are being taught and connects back to the problem scenario and the learning objectives. It also ensures that multiple abilities are utilized, which is a key cornerstone of STEAM teaching. And when it's authentic, it engages the students as products are real life. Another piece about formative assessment is that they're connected to the standards. So we often ask the two questions. Are there certain skills that students need to know? And is there content that students need to know during this unit? These two questions drive the formative assessment. Often we look at short quizzes that are ungraded, right? And this is important because we believe that this gives an indicator of what the students need help with, not an assessment of their knowledge in the final sense, and that you can check the progress of your students and inform your teaching. Another way to embed formative assessment is either in progress peer evaluation or final peer evaluation during the presentations if they're doing those. With group work and peer evaluation is critical as it provides students with the opportunity to become critical and really informs their own learning. It's an opportunity for them to refine their skills as they learn to critique others during the peer review process. We've often seen this work really well in the draft stage where we ask students to review another student's work with a rubric side by side, giving them really constructive feedback. Then they often go back to their own, with their own product and work on changing that. So it works twofold. Another way to embed formative assessment is student reflection. This is really important. Self-assessment is a tool that helps with metacognition, helps students think about the way that they learn best. It offers an opportunity for refinement in their thinking. And both help students to know how they know what they know, which is a really important life skill. There are several ways you can incorporate student reflection. These could be journals, reflection questions. So using Google Forms is one great way. or a section on the rubric for self-assessment. And this is something I often did, where I literally just put a column next to the final grade where I asked them to self-assess using the rubric that I would then grade them on. Most importantly, formative assessment should inform your teaching. The goal should be to check in on students' understanding and make changes to your teaching. So, for example, if you give your students a short quiz on the parts of cell and realize they're mixing up the functions of the cell, then your future teaching should reflect and improve on this deficit that the students are struggling with. So, the most important question that teachers often are worried about is, how does this translate to standardized tests? Well, increased when teachers use formative assessment regularly, there is an increased content knowledge on standardized tests. Compared to traditional classes, students who undergo PBL, which is a part of STEAM, and teachers use formative assessment, they do better on assessments of content knowledge. Also important is that they improve critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Particularly, this works with students who struggle to learn content. And furthermore, during PBL, students showed an initiative by utilizing resources and revising their work, behaviors that were uncharacteristic of them before they engaged in PBL. So just some quotes on what some previous teachers said during their STEAM units to help you think about the standardized tests, which we know are important, is that they talk about how their test scores improved and that it was a wonderful journey where they learned about their teaching and really saw students learn. Often they would talk about how students did very well on the traditional test, particularly if they were required to give a benchmark test, and that students' engagement was really high and that the students were really excited to show the teachers what they learned. And last, they really talked about how they really loved to teach again, and it showed them how to be more creative and see strengths in their students, which we are really excited to see, particularly when it's connected to student learning.